So help me God. Thank you. If you'd be willing to come up here and sign your oath when we're done with this item. Thank you. And now, Mayor Karen, if you would be so kind as to stand and raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Sarah Karen, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of South Dakota, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office of mayor, which I am about to enter. So help me God. If you would be willing to stop over here quickly, and we can have everyone sign their respective oaths, and we can make it truly official.
Okay, item number 2 is approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion and second?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Beth Manti and seconded by Bruce Bueller. All in favor? Say
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes. Item 3 is approval of the agenda, and I would like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda with item 7 removed.
So moved.
It's anticipated that will come back at a future agenda.
Second.
So we have motion by Vilhauer and second by Tupper. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, first reading of ordinance number 17-27, amending Title 21 of the revised ordinances of the City of Watertown, referencing outside storage and display requirements for property at Lake Kempesca. Shane? Oh, no, sorry, Ken.
This also was in a revised second reading. We just had a slight change that we added to it this time. And that was basically, if you go into the page, outside storage displays, we struck one line in the purpose, and then we added, with the exception of commercial vehicles and trailers used by contractors actively performing improvements to property where parked. That's again just allowing contractors with their trailers and trucks to be parked in somebody's property when they're working there. As long as they're actively working on the job, they can be there without being in violation. That wasn't clear before, so we just kind of updated that a little bit, and really that's all there is. Other than striking that other part that was actually under Title 18 of the police department, so.
Okay. So we'll have a public hearing at the next council meeting, is that what you're
This
expecting?
is our first
This
reading.
is
Yep,
it?
yep, this is the
Okay.
first, so it'll be the second public hearing, yep.
Okay.
That is correct.
Any discussion before moving on? Or questions from the council?
Well, I do have a few, but since it's only a first reading, I'll hold those off until the next time.
You can ask.
Well, okay, I guess if you're going to give me the floor, Mayor. This is pretty well patterned off our non-lake parking ordinance, is that correct?
Very similar.
Okay. And is that working for the most part, you know, as far as complaints, enforceability? I mean,
The gentleman sitting right next to you brought that forward. What do you think, Don?
The current city ones?
Yeah.
Everything I've heard is we've had, I have heard very few complaints on what we've done in the city.
I think we've had a lot better, good results of it. I'm not saying there's not some stragglers out there yet, but it's been a great improvement from what we had in the past.
Number one is they're off the street, and that is a safety issue, especially at the corners. That's the biggest thing I personally noticed. And in Ward A, where we had most of the complaints, I have not had a call for months on this.
I think you see it a little bit starting to slip back, but I think once, where are we at with the code enforcement, full-time code enforcement officer, Kenny?
Well, we're getting close. There's an offer out there. We'll find out if they accept it or not.
And I think that'll correct a lot of that problem once we get a full-time code enforcement officer, so. Jim did a great job, though.
a couple more questions if I got the floor yet. On-street parking, as I read this, I believe there's a 4-foot distance between parking and public right-of-way. Is that correct?
You're talking about on-street parking, you're talking about when they're parking on their property, they have to stay 4 foot off the property line.
That's what I'm referring to.
Right, so we're just asking them to keep, it's kind of like in town, when you park adjacent to an alley, we want you to be at least 4 foot off the alley, and that's for snow removal and just giving the room a little more space and everything else.
No, I understand that. I'm not opposed to it. My only comment is driving around the lake, especially this past weekend and right during this time. Very few of those vehicles are 4 feet off the.
That section isn't in here. That's in the police section. This Lake Off Street parking has nothing to do with your residential cars that are parked on the street.
Okay, so that is different than
That is different.
We had a conversation before, Justin.
Yeah,
so- okay.
the clarification is that that provision, I think you're referencing sub 3 under allowable storage parking by location. This says items stored must be placed on their private property and not closer than 4 feet from the public right-of-way. Items stored references storage, not parking. So daily use vehicles, for instance, Ken, those
Yeah.
would not fall under that
No,
provision.
they're gonna
Okay.
fall back under the police is under 18.
Thanks for clarifying that. And one last question then. We talk about storage across the road from the lake, is that right?
Correct.
Because I have gotten complaints from people that live along the lake out in our area about stuff that's stored, especially in the winter months, obviously. And I think I've even stopped in your office and talked to you about that, Ken. What does this do, or can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, basically, if you have a vacant lot on the other side of the street, as it's currently wrote, it will allow them to store their boat docks and lifts in the rear half of that lot. Or they could also have a congregate lot, where they have one larger lot and a bunch of them want to put them together. But to do that, they're supposed to come in and actually get permission from us. We may require them to do some sort of screening. But again, this is still in its infancy. If we get it out there, if it don't work, there's plenty of time to tweak it and say, well, we tried that, but it didn't work. Let's try this.
And when you say parcel, non-lakeside parcel, you're talking about one that's owned by somebody, right?
By somebody, yeah. Not
Okay.
on city property, no. It's
Right.
private property. Correct.
Okay, or you can't just say, that guy's never around, I'm going to park it over there.
Well, you could probably try it till they
Yeah,
get
exactly. Okay, but it is something that's owned by somebody who's there. Okay,
Correct.
thanks.
Hopefully with their permission, yes.
Thanks, Ken.
You bet.
Item 5, first reading of ordinance number 17-31, amending district boundaries by rezoning lots 8 and 9, Block 2, North Lake Drive addition from R1 Single Family Residential District to RG Residential Garage District. Shane.
Thank you, Mayor. City staff received a petition from Patrick Mahold to convert an R1. Is my screen on the? Okay, in the diagram, the shaded area here is the current R1 lot that's being proposed to be changed zoning to the RG to build a garage unit over there instead of a residence. This was vetted in front of the Planning Commission, who approved the rezone at the June 22nd meeting, and the Planning Commission recommends to the council approval of the rezone. But there's no action here tonight, but any discussion is welcomed.
Shane, does it meet all the requirements for the RG?
In generally, yes. He did get all of his petitions too, which was a big step. So he got the petitions. And when I say generally, in the past, we've allowed the frontage of both Pheasant and Lake Drive to equate to the frontage necessary to have an RG lot. That's a difference. So Grouse Street here, just for technicality, doesn't exist. That's been vacated.
Shane, how many lots are we looking at currently in this plan?
This is one large lot.
So just the one lot is going to be
Correct.
zoned different?
Well, yes, I believe it's one lot, or it might be two lots, one parcel, but it's all one ownership.
Two lots can combine to make one?
I believe it was platted as two lots.
Was two? Okay.
The legal description there, Councilman, is lots 8 through 9, Block 2, North Lake Drive Addition. And as it's legally described, that would appear to be the fact that it was platted to be take two lots and make it into one.
What, in that scenario, what is going to tie those two lots together that makes them inseparable?
When
for
they get
purposes?
a building permit, Ken can have them do a lot development agreement.
Okay, so that'll tie them together, so it cannot be separated
Right.
in the future with that garage on it.
Correct.
Just for informational purposes, this is going to be like one garage or like storage units or just an individual's garage?
Is Mr. Mahold here? I can't speak to that.
Sorry, back in. I really haven't been doing this, but I have been parts of it. This currently is just for a single structure right now, but as he's done this, typically we have to have 2 or 3 or 4 lots just to do the RG legally. So this could very well end up being 2 single lots by the time it's all done with 2 separate buildings on it. But currently, we're only working on one for it, but they were putting them together trying to meet the minimum requirements for the RG district.
Thanks, Ken.
Okay, if my drawings or picture's still up, this area right here is the proposed rezone, and it is split into 2 separate lots by this lot line here. So.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 6, resolution of intent to enter into a year lease agreement with Chris Hanton to hay Lot 1 and a portion of Lot 9 of the Hanton Industrial Park Edition, resolution number 17-20. Do I have a motion and a second to approve this resolution?
Don't.
Second.
Moved by Randy Tupper and second by Glenn Vilhar. Any discussion?
We'll actually have a lease agreement come before us at the next meeting, is that correct?
That is correct, Councilman. Yes. Yep.
No other comments? This is one.
We've had lease agreements with him before, right?
That is correct, yes. Chris
This
Hanton
isn't-
has taken over, in fact, we had a lease agreement with him last year, as well as the year before that.
And things have been fine as far as I've heard.
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8 is old business. Do we have any? Probably not.
I do have a quick question for Ken, if you can come up here for a minute. I don't know if it falls under old business, new business, but while you're here.
He just wants to harass you.
No, I don't want to harass him. Just an issue that I've addressed a couple times, and now I see it just happen again.
Rob told him he couldn't call him up here, so now he's picking on me.
Hey, Rob, maybe you were the one that filled the hole, so maybe you should come up here too. But anyhow, here's the situation. One of the utility companies comes in, they bury cable, they put in a box. The guy, 2 years it took for them finally come and put a cover over the box. They looked at a plastic bag. So, in the meantime, there's a hole there. They got a cone sticking in the hole. You know, dark people might have stepped in it. Nobody did, thank God. We finally got it filled about a month or so ago. Rob's guys went over there and filled it. Now the utility company comes back and digs the hole again and puts 3 cones there. what do we do? Is there anything we can put in place, maybe by ordinance or something down the road, that requires them to put it back at, within a certain amount of time?
Is this within an easement or right away? Where is this?
It's in the right of way.
That's a Shane question.
Is it? Well, come on,
I'm
Kenny.
sorry. If it was an easement, I would say, yeah, well, I'm sure we could put something in ordinance sooner or later.
Or, that's something maybe we can discuss down the road or whatever, but, I mean, it shouldn't be a property owner have to call me, and they looked at it for 2 years. I heard it from the property owner for 2 years. We finally got him put a cover around the box instead of an orange plastic bag, and then we finally filled a hole and planted grass. And less than a month later, they come by and dig it back up, put a cone in there again.
Yeah. Yep. Just from a legal standpoint, general legal standpoint, we with the city council have the authority to control rights of way broadly, and including utility easements. Some types of utilities are more closely regulated by the feds, and so we don't have as many regulatory arrows in our quiver, but we still have quite a few for all forms of utilities. So we can take a look at it. I can, see what I can find there, but generally speaking, we have the ability to curtail some of these practices. And a lot of times it happens through a utility franchise
That's
arrangement.
what this is.
So, yeah, we'll take a look at those
It's
things.
not municipal utilities, it is through one of the communication companies.
So the franchisees are given certain rights to operate within our right-of-way, so that makes it a little bit tougher for us to enforce different things upon them. I have been reaching out to the local utility companies to try to make sure that if they're going to dig in our right-of-way, if they're going to tear up a portion of a street or whatever they're doing, that they at least inform us of that. Now, that doesn't mean we go out and chase them around and make sure that all the grass is seeded and all that stuff. But what it does do is it gives us a chance to know where they're working, and then if we hear any complaints, then we can go pursue those. So what I would suggest is the people that are calling you, call our office. We'll put it on our radar and we'll go out and look at it, and then we'll contact those utilities and make sure that those get repaired. And I will say with a little bit of a grain of salt too, because if you drive up and down any alley in certain areas of town following winter, people have backed over, driven over, slid into hundreds of those boxes around town, and they're all sitting there with wires sticking out of the ground. So there is a period of time in the spring that we have to give those guys a little leeway, because it takes several weeks or months to get all that put back together. But they should start the complaints directed to my office.
Well, I don't mind getting a complaint, but I'm just...
All right. Just letting the public know.
I'm just trying to figure out, is there anything we can do in an ordinance or something to say, after you've dug it up, you got so long to bury it again?
Probably wouldn't.
You can't put an orange cone on there and leave it out there till the sun turns it yellow, because it's been there for 4 years. So
Safety issues are separate from nuisances, but
Yeah.
Any other old business?
I don't know if this is old or new. Shane, can you tell me 3rd Street Northwest, 2nd Street Northwest, up by the hospital, both them streets, any idea when they're going to open again?
well, they had a pretty ambitious schedule. They wanted to be open by mid-June on the 3rd Street portion. That has slipped, obviously, considerably. But one of the things I was hoping to discuss with the council or come forward is a third of that street was supposed to be left intact without any disruption to the pavement, and subsequently the plan changed up there, and the municipal utilities put in 7 water services across that. So what I've been pursuing is a cost estimate to see what that third of the street would cost us to replace. And I don't have a final document in my hands yet, but my preliminary indication from the company is about $100,000 to repave and curb and gutter that remaining third. So I was actually hoping to have that information to bring to you officially to ask for some direction, and I guess I don't have that today, but I plan to bring it to you as soon as I can. And we'd have to discuss where that budget money would come from because we don't have that budgeted. Worst case scenario, we decide not to do anything, and we have 7 patches across 1/3 of a street.
Shane, is there any repercussions for them not having it done by the June timeframe?
No, we don't have
Nothing in
any.
there?
We just have a general agreement that they get it done this construction season. That completion date was self-imposed by the contractor.
Okay.
Does that include Third and Second Street? Because I know Second Street's they tore that up here a while back, the underground utilities, and that's been blocked now for 2 weeks.
I'm not familiar with what Second Street you're talking
Right,
about.
right on the corner of Millette School. So you got Third closed.
You're 7th Street, not
Well-
2nd Street.
No, it's Second Street and like
Oh,
7th Avenue.
the corner?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll get patched in when the asphalt's ready for the other
Well,
portion.
they're gonna pile it dirt about 4 feet high across the road
Yeah.
here, so I don't know.
At
Because
least.
traffic is all routing over to Broadway, and it's getting pretty heavy over
Okay.
there.
All right, so noted.
Any other old business? We have some new business?
I do, Mayor. I'd like to just make mention, we have with us tonight Deidre Whitman is our new library director. And if you want to stand up, just introduce everybody and just say welcome aboard. And I think it's going to be a great thing for the community moving forward as a liaison to the library board. And so it's going to be it'll be a pleasure working with you in the future. Thank you.
Other new business?
Mayor, before the meeting, I talked to Todd Sire. I wonder if he could just stop up and very quickly tell us the things that are happening at the airport. It's pretty exciting out there right now. So if that would be to your approval.
Sure.
Good evening again. This week alone, we're flying over 300 passengers out of the terminal. So we're still on track for that 10,000. We may fall just a hair short, but we're in definite line for that 10,000 in payments by October 1. The parking lot is done now for this year, so we'll be bringing it before you, Mayor Karen, for next year for the overlay. But Rob Bainan and his crew helped us out a ton, and engineering as well. So thanks to all.
Great. Thank you.
Good luck, Todd.
Thanks.
You need to throw a couple bodies on, give us a call. Get that 10,000.
Encourage everyone to fly out of Watertown when possible so we can meet that goal and
Bruce,
get the bonus.
are you buying
I
lunch?
encourage
in
everyone
Pier?
to fly into Watertown, so.
Pardon me?
Bruce, are you buying lunch in Pier?
Absolutely.
Other new business? Liaison reports. None? There will be no executive session. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second? Okay, we got a motion by John Solom and second by Randy Tupper. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting is adjourned.